everyone, welcome back. Matt and Dean here, and I guess we didn't bother you too much in the first time we taped an episode, so Natalie's back with us.
Back.
She's willing to deal with Dean for another taping, so that's good.
Turning the other cheek, as it were.
Very nice.
Yep.
Well played.
So this episode we're calling Secret Santa. So I don't know do either of you watch The Office?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
You've heard of it, Dean?
nightly.
Yeah. Do they have that out west in BC?
We invented the office.
Oh, yes, okay. So there's that episode where they have the Secret Santa, which maybe remember. So for those of you who haven't watched it,
Pause what you're doing.
yeah, you need to go see it. Andy Bernard has Erin as, he's her Secret Santa, and so he thinks he's going to give her the gift of the 12 Days of Christmas, which if you sing the song or you start humming it, it's mostly all birds in the beginning, and so she comes into the office and she has like scratches and like she makes a comment like that they're plucking and pulling out her hair, and the whole episode ends with the drummers drumming out in the parking lot. So really quite funny.
Yeah.
This idea he was trying to woo her over, and she says, "Whoever my Secret Santa is, would you just stop?"
Stop. There are so many birds.
Yeah, so the Secret Santa idea for this episode is when Jesus is giving a conversation about caring for and blessing other people, he's kind of blasting the people who do it for public attention.
Yeah.
And he's saying, instead, if we keep talking about this ethic of the people of God, which the Sermon on the Mount, we come back to that. This is the way for Jesus people to live and to order our lives. Not that we ever necessarily achieve it all, but we know we're moving and we want to keep moving in these directions. This is around giving and blessing other people. So let's talk about it. Lots of things to chat and lots of questions maybe to ask too. So Natalie, you want to get us rolling?
Really, my first question was the right hand, left hand thing.
Right.
You know, is that, I mean, I'm kind of being funny, but not. Like, I wonder if there was any parallel to the whole, I know it's don't let the left know what the right's doing as far as your, but I'm curious if contextually, if there was anything about the left hand, as we've talked
being
before.
used for personal business.
Yes, it's that same kind of idea, like, everybody knows, we don't talk about that thing.
Right.
And therefore, keeping your other hand clean, so to speak.
Right.
You kind of keep those separate. So I'm wondering if there was any level of that within what he was implying. I have no idea.
Yeah, there's like a privacy to it almost, eh?
Yeah, if I was the hearer then, in the time of Jesus, would I have went,
Yeah, that is interesting.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't either. That's a good question.
I wonder if there's anybody really smart that writes about that. I don't know.
Probably.
I mean, it's not me.
Some first century scholar who deals in like what the left hand was.
Yeah.
It's
It was
gotta be a niche somewhere.
it was the bathroom reader version of the first century. Be fun.
Yeah.
How does it?
Yeah, he says, where is it? Verse 3, but when you give to someone in need, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Give your gifts in private, and your Father who sees everything will reward you.
Yeah.
It's good.
I mean, can we jump to the part where he's blasting like the religious
Let's do
people
it. That's
little
always a
bit?
good part to
Let's-
jump to.
Because
Please,
I don't
please.
know if they actually blew trumpets in the synagogues when they made an offering, but it's an awesome mental picture. Like, hey, everybody, look at me! They're like giving lots of money or something.
Attention,
man.
please. I would like you all to see how religious and righteous and pious
Well,
I
yeah,
am.
that's the thing, right? It's like to put themselves on display.
Yes.
Like that was the point. Like that is so to me.
Yeah, so
like,
icky. Yeah.
But I mean, how we see it today. So we can't judge a certain time frame because the reality is we see people do something and then share. I did this great thing.
Yeah.
And sadly, that exists in the church.
Oh
too.
yes, absolutely.
Well, and I would say 100% agree with you, but even transcends just the church. Like most people post every little detail of their lives online anyway, but especially so if you're doing something that looks virtuous, right? Whether it's, going to help out clean up after a protest or, during the 2020, 2021 kind of lockdown period, we did see lots of protests and movements, and they were significant and important. But there was a level of people showing up to grab the picture, to post on their social media, to quickly get out of there, and they didn't actually contribute or
Look at me,
care.
I'm doing something good.
That has a as a name,
slacktivism. Or virtue
signaling. It's
Yeah.
exactly
Yes,
it's,
right.
it's the virtue signaling of their time.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
trumpets.
Yeah, interesting. I never thought about that.
Really
That's so
interesting.
true.
Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
like we still this is what I love that's completely relevant about these stories from thousands of years ago now, where Jesus is telling people how to live, and it's like, well, that was a long time ago, but it's like, yo,
Yeah.
what have you posted on your Instagram feed in the last week
Right.
that has been like a virtue signaling of like, look how great I am, or look what I'm doing, and it's actually maybe disingenuous, or you're doing something good perhaps, but for like the wrong reason.
Yeah.
And that's where Jesus always cuts, is to the heart. It's like, your actions are great and they can have meaningful impact in the world, but like I'm more interested in like the motivation behind these actions, right? And don't just
Well, when he says, when it starts saying "watch out" as the first two words,
Yeah.
it should grab our attention. That not only was he calling out maybe the temptation to do things in a way that garners the attention of others, but also I think for us to be like, that's still part of a human condition.
Yes.
Yes.
We should still be watching out about
Yes.
what is motivating us to, because giving, no matter the motivation, the giving probably still helps the person who's receiving.
Right.
Yeah.
But in our own journey with Jesus and our own interior transformation, which we've been talking about, that the interior world matters so much.
Yeah.
And what's driving us in that? We should pay attention. We should watch out for this.
Yeah.
Because I think we all kind of want some of that.
Yeah.
And what is motivating us in doing
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, I think the reality of that phrase that Jesus uses, watch out, like if Jesus is saying,
Yeah.
watch out, like, guys, we need to listen.
Yeah.
Like, that's an important thing.
Yeah, pause, wait a sec.
It's like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, I mean, okay, Jesus.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's like, watch out.
Yeah, put the phone down for this
Yeah.
one. Like, oh, yeah, what?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
I also find it interesting, this idea of like, he touches on both be careful not to do this, because if you do it that way, you won't get a reward.
Right.
But if you do it this way, the reward like will be given. And I find it interesting because even in that, it's like we can start to pull apart the idea of like doing something virtuous or extending compassion or mercy or generosity to someone for the sake of that as a means and end into itself. Or it's like, well, I'll be generous to you because I know. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to give me some
Yeah.
sort of like heavenly
Totally.
dividend.
Right.
Like that seems to kind of cheapen the whole thing, and yet it's baked in there. And I wonder, like, was there a part of Jesus saying that also helps us think through like the motivation? Is my motivation some sort of crown, heavenly crown, or a jewel in my crown?
Right.
Or is it actually, if I'm aligning my heart posture to like serve and care and give to someone who's in need, if that's my pure motivation is to help someone out, like that feels better than like, I'm going to do this so that I get something.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think like for us to be able to go through that process, like I think for myself, anytime that I'm doing something like that, I'm going, what? Why? Like, am I doing that out of a pureness, or is it because I want to tweet about it later?
Right.
Because I still tweet. I don't know, but
Yeah. No, but I think that's also the point too, right?
Yeah.
What you're saying, what you're mentioning too, Dean, is that I think it's better for us to stop and ask ourselves, what is my motivation? And even like I've done this myself to be honest with you, when I'm about to do something, I catch myself thinking, I wonder if I'm actually just doing this. I know I'm doing it secretly, but what's really going on?
Yeah.
And I'll just admit that in the moment. I'll
Yeah.
just do a quick prayer and be like, I think I might be getting this mixed up, but I'm trying to do and I'll just offer that back as an honest, because there's tension in us all the time sometimes.
Well, and I think about this idea of not letting the right hand know what the left hand is doing, and what that can look like in ripple effects. Like I'm curious about, for example, when I am helping try to teach my daughter about the concept of giving, like,
Right.
and so I don't want to, trumpets to everything, but I want her to be able to like see generosity
Yes.
in action, and know that that it's so important to actually care for and give to others, but without making it a show or, almost like training her to want that response of like, oh, look what you did, it's so great. And so it's a really, I think, difficult balance to strike
it is.
sometimes too, when we're trying to disciple and bring along or teach other people something versus really checking our, I don't even know what check ourselves
Yeah, check ourselves in it.
Yeah.
in doing so.
Yeah.
I think the awareness,
Yeah.
like the awareness and the intentionality as to the why is like always a foundational starting point. So even if we're thinking through those things and being like, what is my reason for doing it this way? Oh, it's so that I can like train up the next generation or model to someone how it should be done. And I'm not going to do it like this every time. And I think that when we are
Good.
thoughtful and reflective, like to me, that shows like a heart posture that is kind of aligned in the right way.
Yeah.
Versus that kind of like blowing of the trumpets and being like, look at me go.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's thanks, Dean. That helps.
No, well,
I feel
that's
better.
Yeah, well, in hearing you say that, it just sparked for me like that. As we think through, like you just modeled, I think how we should all be approaching it, which is like, how do I do this in a way that is still helpful but isn't like egotistical? And I think that's an important thought pattern for all of us to have.
Yeah.
The inner transformation that Jesus continues to be leading us, the journey he's leading us on, whether it's around sexual ethic, lusting, like this enemy stuff that we've been covering, and now this idea of giving. It just feels like he keeps hitting us on all these different aspects of what it means to be human, and in each of them, he's inviting us to a better way.
Yeah.
But it takes intentionality and work, because our natural inclination is to blow the trumpet or to say, how many times do we hear about like people with means or celebrities or whatever, and that's what they talk, like they say they gave this. Whatever, that's great. I'm not saying it's bad. It's still helping people.
Yeah.
But so much of our posture of giving is related around knowing who's doing what. And I've received gifts before, and we have dropped off at the door. I don't know if you've ever gotten that.
Yeah.
And
It's brilliant.
it's so awesome.
Yeah.
Whether it's just like something super simple as like a few baked cookies or something, or like a gift card. Like we've had that before. Like, hey Matt, here's a gift card. Go out for dinner with Bobby. I have no idea who it's. And that feels so special. And I imagine for them it's like a little bit of like, can we drop it and get away without knowing? Like it's kind of a cool little thing.
Yeah, we've called that being a kindness ninja with
Yes.
with kids. Like
I
it's so
love
fun
that.
because it's like it becomes like a whole like thing of doing it without anybody knowing.
Yes.
I don't know. There's something within that's like I don't know.
There's a joy in that.
I feel like that God's like like you're getting the fist bump.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it's like a good. It's a cool thing.
Yeah,
My
and
mic
maybe that's the reward, right? It talks about the reward, and like I mean, I think without blowing trumpets,
Yes.
I think we've all probably been in a position where we have done something good for someone else.
Yeah.
And we know that feeling, and like I said, Jesus talks about the reward, and when your Father sees, like He'll give you that reward. I think maybe that feeling of like, I've done this thing, and nobody knows except for the person who's received it, or maybe not even,
Right.
and like that feels so good, and like that feeling is the thing we should be striving for, and then not to like blast it or talk, just to savor. It's so special when it's like just kind of for us.
Yeah.
And like God knows and we know, and it's like, it feels like this special like secret that we're in on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The other
I
thing
love
about the
that.
giving anonymously is I think it robs money of its power over us. Because when we give without being known, if we give only to be known, it's like we're giving this huge sacrifice and I better be getting something back. There's a power that the money has over our actions. But when you give and no one knows, you're really loose with you're free, not loose, but you're more free with your money. You're not letting it, you're not giving away so that you receive.
Yeah, I
You're
like
saying,
that.
this isn't about me. This isn't about, we're sharing resources, we're blessing, we're giving, which is a huge Jesus thing, to say money does not control me. Because sometimes I wonder if we only give up our money because we know we're getting back. And that ties money to reward,
Yeah.
which has power on us.
I have a friend who has a high-paying job. They're not in ministry jobs, so they have a high-paying job, and they are very exactly what you're saying, free with their money.
Yeah.
And anytime there's been a need that we've been aware of, they'll help in some way to meet the need.
Yeah.
And in response, like in talking to them, I'm like, man, like you guys are so generous, and they're like, yeah, we see these are kingdom dollars.
Right.
Like their whole concept is the money that I earn isn't even mine.
Yes.
It's kingdom currency.
Yeah, they're like stewarding it.
Yeah. And I love that
I love
mentality,
that.
and I want to like continue to adopt that mentality of like, oh, how do I do that with maybe slightly more meager resources?
Yeah.
But how do I
But
do
that's
that?
the thing too. Sometimes we think, well, I'll be generous when I have more, but
Right.
that spirit of generosity of giving starts no matter where you're
Yeah.
at.
Yeah.
And you have to train those muscles. Because why would we give when we have so much? Wouldn't that be harder then, potentially?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing I love, just kind of keeping on that vibe for a while, is the language that Jesus used in verse 2, if you're following along. So when you give.
Yes.
It's not if.
Yes.
It's not like on the odd occasion. It's like,
Yes.
it's just that it's baked into it. Like, this is an expectation.
Yes.
Like, when you see a need, you will meet it, right? When this happens, do it this way.
Right.
And it's like not even up for conversation. Like, should we? Like, is this something that Jesus' followers are about? Is it? It's like, no, we do this, and then this is how. Like, this is the best practice for it. And I just love that, because we can often miss it or see it as like the optional upgrade. Like, oh, I'm going to be this, and then like when I have enough, I'll give.
Yeah.
But to find ourselves in a position of like, and it doesn't even have to be money. It can be time, right? Like our attention and our time is like our greatest commodity these days in some ways. And so to be able to be with someone in a really meaningful, intentional way could be like this way of giving.
And not just be with something, be present.
Yes.
Like, I think
my-
that the
yes.
commodity of presence is so significant
Huge.
today.
Yeah. So I love that. I love that is right in there. It's just like, no, this happens. This is something we do, and here's the best way for us to do it.
Let's leave it there. That seems like a great.
Yeah.
So when you give, you can talk about that. Over to you and your dinner churches. Thanks for hanging out. Jesus continues to like kind of blow our minds with these things. So thanks for digging in and tracking along. We'll continue the conversation soon. Peace.